Hello, crafters and artisans, and welcome back to Psychedelic Squid Fiber Arts. Today, I'm going to show you how to make this style of wool comb cover. This style has twice as much sewing, but it allows you to use different colors and it holds its shape really well. This set is in red, but I'll be showing you how to make them in blue. If you've already seen the wool comb cover style 1, part 1, then you can go ahead and skip the tools and materials as they're exactly the same. So the supplies you'll need are a ruler, new leather of 5/6 ounce weight. The weight refers to the thickness of the leather. A pen, scissors or a box cutter, a leather hole punch. I use one that looks like this. A leather stitching punch or awl. This is the leather stitching punch I use with interchangeable heads, and this is my awl. Wax thread, leather edge skeeving tool. It looks like this. A burnishing tool. It looks something like this. Burnishing gum, it'll just make it easier to polish the edges of your leather. Leather snap fasteners with a flaring tool. My set looks like this. A lighter, leather sewing needles, a hammer, and a semi-soft work surface you're okay with damaging, such as a cheap cutting board from the dollar store. Again, we're going to be starting off with measuring the length of the wool comb tines. 4 1/4 inch in length, 4 1/4 inch in width, and 3/8 inch deep. Now, on a sheet of paper, I'm going to sketch the general shape of the tines and write down my measurements. I like to leave about 3/4 of an inch at the bottom of the tines exposed. So, 4 1/4 inches minus 3/4 inch is 3 1/2 inches. Now, for the total length, I'm going to add these three sides together. So, that's 3 1/2 inches plus 3 1/2 inches plus 3/8 inch, which equals 7 3/8 inch. Now I have my length, I need to find my width. So to calculate that, I'm going to take 4 1/4 and add my seam allowance twice. I use 3/16 of an inch seam allowance. 4 1/4 inches plus 3/16 inch plus 3/16 inch. 3/16 twice equals 3/8, plus 2/8 equals 5/8 for a total of 4 5/8 inch. Now for the side panel. It would be 3 1/2 inches by 3/8 inch, but we need to leave a little room for the fold at the top. So 3 1/2 inches minus 1/4 inch equals 3 1/4 inches. So my first side will be 3 1/4 inches long, and the width of this piece will be 3/8 inch plus my seam allowance twice. So it'll be 3/4 inch wide. Then we can't forget about the strap. The strap will be 7/8 inch wide, and for me, it needs to be about 7 3/4 inches long. Make sure that you check your length before cutting this piece. So here you can see my piece is 7 3/8 inches long, 4 1/4 wide with a 3/16 inch seam allowance on each side. And I drew the segments out so you can see how these three measurements come together for the total length. I used this note card to sketch the side panels, and for this pattern, you'll need 2 side panels for each cover. Now, to cut these out. For my sides, I'll be using black leather. I had this scrap piece on hand that'll work nicely. It's about 6/8 ounce thickness. For the body, I'll be using this beautiful bright blue, which is also roughly 8 ounce leather. Now, I'm going to trace my templates onto the leather. Remember, you need 2 side panels, and we'll cut these out. Next, using my leather stitching punch, I'm going to punch holes along both long edges of the side panels. Then I'm going to punch the same amount of holes at the same spacing on the main panel on all 4 edges. I'm going to make sure that the holes line up so that the side panels are even along the bottom. You can mark the height of the side panel on the main panel so you know when to stop. Since you'll be placing stitching holes on all sides, you should make sure that they line up properly with the side panels. Now that we've done that, you can see my side panels each have 18 evenly spaced holes on both long edges, and my main panel has corresponding holes. So we're going to sew this together with the suede sides of the leather facing each other. After I sew the left and right seams, I'm going to fold the main panel over and sew the next set of seams, again with the suede sides facing in. Using one long piece of thread with a leather needle on each end, we're going to sew the seams together. Start by lining the 2 pieces up as best you can to overlap the holes. I'm going to start near the bend and work my way to the edge so my knot is hidden on the side panel at the bottom. After going through the first hole, you'll want to center your thread so each side has roughly equal lengths. Then using one needle, you'll go through the next hole, alternating the direction you insert the needles so that the thread overlaps. You'll tighten that first stitch down and then you'll move on to the next one. For a more in-depth example of this, check out my other wool comb cover videos. Style 1, Part 1. Now, I'm just going to finish this row so you can see how to tie the final knot. With both ends of the thread on the same side that you want your knot on, you're going to tie a standard double knot and cut the ends short. Using a lighter, you're going to melt the ends. I like to use the side of my lighter to flatten down the melted knot. Now, I'm going to sew the other edge the exact same way. Once we've done that, we're going to fold the cover over and sew the remaining 2 seams. So that's it for part 1. Please check out part 2 for finishing out the cover. Please leave any questions you have in the comments below. Thank you for exploring the depths of your creativity with me, and I'll see you next time.